I always thought family meant unconditional love until I checked my bank balance that Tuesday morning. The number staring back at me wasn't just wrong, it was impossible. I refreshed the page 3 times before the reality sank in. $47,000 of my savings had vanished. My name is Yara, and I'm the responsible one, the reliable daughter, the one who always said yes when my family needed help. That's probably why I agreed to the joint account in the first place. For emergencies, Dad said. To keep the family safe, Mom added. I was 29, a senior software engineer, and I'd been saving for my own house since I graduated college. I called my father first. No answer. Then my mother. Straight to voicemail. My hands were shaking as I dialed my brother Tristan's number, but I already knew he wouldn't pick up. He never did. The drive to my parents' house took 20 minutes. I found them in the kitchen, Mom washing dishes, Dad reading the paper like it was any other morning. Where's my money? I stood in the doorway, phone clutched in my hand. Dad barely looked up. Good morning to you too, mija. Don't mija me. $47,000 is gone from our joint account. What happened? Mom turned off the faucet, drying her hands slowly on a dish towel. Yara, honey, sit down. We need to talk. No, I don't want to sit. I want answers. Dad folded his newspaper deliberately. Your brother needed help. We handled it. The room started spinning. Handled what? Tristan got into some trouble with gambling debts. Mom's voice was barely a whisper. There was this man, Ramon. You took my house down payment to pay off Tristan's bookie? The words felt like acid in my mouth. We had no choice, Dad snapped. This man was dangerous. Tristan could have been hurt. And what about me? That was my money, my future. Mom started crying, her go to move whenever things got uncomfortable. You're being selfish, Yara. This is family. Tristan needed us. Selfish? I laughed, but it came out more like a sob. I've given you everything I could since I was 18. College fund for Tristan? I helped. New roof? I paid. Car repairs? Emergency dental work? All me. When do I get to stop being the family ATM? Dad stood up, his chair scraping against the tile. That's enough. You have a good job, a nice apartment. Your brother has nothing. We raised you better than this. Better than what? Better than expecting to keep my own money? Money comes and goes, Mom said, wiping her eyes. Family is forever. I left before they could see me cry. Drove home in a daze, barely remembering the trip. My phone buzzed with text messages, probably more guilt trips from Mom, but I ignored them. That night, my phone rang. Dad's number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Silence on the line. Then I heard voices. Dad must have pocket dialed me. Finally settled Tristan's debts with Yara's money. Dad's voice, distant but clear. He was talking to someone else. Francisco, that's terrible. Aunt Ruby's voice. Does she know how much? She found out today. Made a scene about it, too. Acting like we stole from her. You did steal from her. It was a joint account. Perfectly legal. Besides, what's she going to do? She always falls in line eventually. That's why we put the account in her name. She's the responsible one. And Tristan? Dad laughed. He's young. He'll figure it out. At least now we don't have Ramon breathing down our necks. I sat there listening, my whole body numb. They hadn't just taken my money. They'd planned it. Used me. Because I was reliable. Because I always said yes. The call ended abruptly. Dad must have realized his phone was on. Within seconds, my screen lit up with a text from him. Sorry, pocket dial. I stared at those 2 words for a long time. Sorry. Such a small word for such a massive betrayal. In that moment, I realized I wasn't their daughter. I was their wallet with a pulse, their safety net, their backup plan. My phone buzzed again. A text from Tristan. Hey sis, heard you're upset. Can we talk? I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my laptop and started a new document. At the top, I typed Financial Transactions, Martinez Family, 2020-2023. Below that, I began listing dates, amounts, and patterns I'd noticed over the years. They thought they knew me. Reliable Yara. Responsible Yara. Yara who always forgives. But they had no idea what they'd just created. Because the thing about responsible people, we keep receipts, and I was about to show them exactly how responsible I could be. You're not going to like what I found, I told Fiona, sliding a folder across her desk. 3 weeks had passed since discovering the theft, and I'd spent every free moment building my case. Fiona, my former college roommate turned corporate attorney, opened the folder and started reading. Her eyebrows climbed higher with each page. Jesus, Yara, she looked up. These transfer patterns, they've been bleeding you dry for years. Keep going. I pointed to the last page. Check the signature on that loan document. She squinted at the paper. This is dated 2 years ago. A co-signed personal loan for $20,000? That's not my signature. Shit! Fiona leaned back in her chair. They forged it? Tristan did, probably with Dad's blessing. I pulled out my phone, playing the recorded conversation from last week. Mom's voice filled the room. Just sign it like you did last time, honey. Yara won't mind. Fiona rubbed her temples. You know what this is, right? It's not just theft anymore. We're talking fraud, identity theft, possible tax evasion. I know exactly what it is. I met her eyes. That's why I'm here. What do you want? I want everything they took from me, not just the money, the dignity, the respect. I want them to face consequences for once in their lives. Fiona stood up and walked to her office window. Remember when we were sophomores and that guy stole your research project? I smiled despite myself. You helped me prove he plagiarized it. And he got expelled. She turned back to me. This is bigger than that, Yara. This is family. If you start this fight, there's no going back. No family dinners, no holidays, no reconciliation. They already killed all that when they stole my future. A memory hit me suddenly, standing in my parents' backyard 3 years ago, watching workers replace the roof. I'd just sold my travel fund, money I'd saved for a dream trip to study abroad in graduate school. Mom had hugged me, saying how blessed she was to have such a giving daughter. Now I wondered if they'd use that money for Tristan too. Fiona, I said quietly, I need your help, but I need to do this right. She sat back down, pulling out a legal pad. Revenge is a loaded gun. If you fire it, be ready for the kickback. I'm ready. Okay. She started writing. First, we document everything, every transfer, every forged signature, every recorded conversation. Then we start building the paper trail. My phone buzzed. Another text from Mom. Family dinner Sunday? Tristan misses you. I showed it to Fiona. Don't respond, she advised. From now on, everything goes through me. No direct contact unless absolutely necessary. What's our first move? The bank. She tapped her pen against the desk. That joint account? We're going to have it audited. Every transaction flagged as suspicious, every gift over the tax-free limit reported. They'll know it was me. Of course they will, but they won't be able to prove it. She leaned forward. Listen carefully, Yara. I can help you, but after this, you don't go back. You hear me? This ends with them facing real consequences. My phone buzzed again. Dad this time. Your mother's crying because you won't answer her texts. Is this how we raised you? I turned off my phone. Tell me what to do next, I said. Fiona handed me a business card. This is Sandra from the bank's fraud division. Call her tomorrow. Express concern about unauthorized transfers from your joint account. Ask questions. Plant seeds of doubt. And then? Then we wait. Let the system do its job. She started making notes. Meanwhile, we'll gather evidence about that forged loan signature. That's your nuclear option if we need it. I thought about all the times I'd backed down, stayed quiet, been the good daughter, all the dreams I'd sacrificed because family came first, all the times Tristan got bailed out while I paid the price. One more thing, Fiona said, looking up from her notes. You need an alibi for what's coming. Start being visible, go to work events, post on social media, let people see you living normally. Why? Because when this hits, your family will try to paint you as bitter and vindictive. We need to show you're just a victim seeking justice. I nodded, standing up. Thank you, Fiona. Don't thank me yet. She closed the folder. This is going to get ugly before it gets better. Are you sure you want to do this? I thought about Dad's laughter on that accidental phone call, about Mom's tears being used as weapons, about Tristan's endless second chances. They raised me to be responsible, I said. Time to show them exactly how responsible I can be. Fiona's smile was sharp. Then let's get to work. Sandra from the bank's fraud division had kind eyes and a voice that could cut steel. Ms. Yara, can you explain why you believe these transfers were unauthorized? I sat in her office, wearing my most professional blazer, the one I saved for client meetings. I discovered several large withdrawals that I never approved. When I confronted my family, they admitted using the money to pay off my brother's gambling debts. I see. She typed something into her computer. And the payments were made to whom? A man named Ramon. He's some kind of bookie. I pulled out my phone. I have a recording of my father discussing the payment with my aunt. Sandra's eyebrows shot up as she listened to the recording. There seems to be some misrepresented purpose here. Would you be open to providing your side in a formal statement? Absolutely. While Sandra printed forms, my phone lit up with a text from Layla, my coworker. Your brother's here at the office looking for you. My stomach clenched. I texted back, Stall him, I'm not there. What exactly are you hoping to achieve here? Sandra asked, returning with paperwork. I want my money back, and I want to ensure this never happens again. She nodded, sliding the forms across her desk. These transfers were marked as gifts to avoid scrutiny, but given the circumstances, we may need to involve other departments. Other departments? Tax compliance, for one. Gifts over $15,000 require proper documentation. These weren't gifts, they were unauthorized transfers to a gambling operator. My phone buzzed again. Layla. He's gone. Said to tell you he needs help with something urgent. I bet he did. After leaving the bank, I drove straight to Fiona's office. She was on the phone when I walked in, but her expression told me everything. Just got off with my contact at the county records office, she said, hanging up. Your parents put up their house as collateral for a private loan. Guess who the lender is? Ramon? Bingo. They used their home equity to secure a gambling debt. Very illegal, especially since Ramon isn't a licensed lender. I sank into a chair. Why would they risk their house? Because they thought they had you as backup. Fiona pulled up something on her computer. Look at this. I found a secondary account under your father's name. It's linked to an offshore bank. A failsafe, I realized, in case everything went wrong. Exactly. And guess what else? She turned the screen towards me. The account was opened the same day they drained your savings. My phone rang. Tristan. I let it go to voicemail. He showed up at my office today, I told Fiona. Don't engage. Not yet. She started typing. We need to document everything. Every call, every visit, every attempt at contact. My voicemail notification pinged. Tristan's voice filled the room. Sis, I know you're mad, but I really need your help. Just one more time. I promise. Call me back. Delete it, Fiona said, but save the timestamp. I did as she said, then asked, What's our next move? We follow the money. She showed me another document. Ramon's operation isn't exactly legal. Once the bank flags these transfers as suspicious, it'll trigger an automatic review. And my parents? They'll have to explain why they misrepresented the transfers as gifts. The IRS doesn't like that kind of creative accounting. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Your father's blood pressure is through the roof because of this bank investigation. Is this what you wanted? Fiona read it over my shoulder. Classic manipulation. Don't respond. I wasn't planning to. Good. She closed her laptop. Because tomorrow things get interesting. The bank's fraud division is going to request documentation for every major transfer from the past 3 years. They won't have it. Exactly. And when they can't produce it? She smiled. Well, let's just say the dominoes will start falling. I stood up to leave, but Fiona caught my arm. Yara, remember what I said about kickback? It's starting. They'll try to guilt you, shame you, maybe even threaten you. Are you ready for that? I thought about the text from Mom, about Tristan's desperate voicemail, about Dad's hidden account. They taught me everything I know about responsibility, I said. Time for their lesson plan to backfire. As I walked to my car, another text came through, this time from Aunt Ruby. I know what they did to you. When you're ready to talk, I'm here. I showed it to Fiona, who was walking me out. Keep that one close, she advised. We might need her later. The sun was setting as I drove home, casting long shadows across the city. Somewhere out there, my family was probably having dinner, making plans, thinking they still had control. They had no idea what was coming. The first crack appeared exactly where Fiona predicted, in the tax paperwork. I was at work when my phone lit up with her message. They filed the transfers as gifts. IRS flagged it. Meeting in 20? I found her in her office, surrounded by documents. Your parents filed 6 separate gifts to Tristan last year, she said without looking up. All just under the reporting threshold. Very convenient. Too convenient? Way too convenient. The IRS loves patterns like that. She handed me a paper. They call it structuring. It's a huge red flag. My phone rang. Tristan again. This time I answered and put it on speaker. Sis, his voice cracked. Please, I need to explain. I'm listening. Look, I messed up. I know that, but I'll pay you back someday, I swear. Just, can you call off these investigators? I caught Fiona's eye. She nodded, pressing record on her phone. How exactly did you plan to pay me back, Tristan? I I don't know yet, but I will. You know me, I always figure something out. Like you figured out how to forge my signature on that loan? Silence. Yeah, I know about that too. That wasn't. Mom and Dad said it would be okay. They said you'd understand. Understand fraud? Don't be dramatic. His voice hardened. They were right. You always think you're better than us. The line went dead. Fiona stopped recording. Well, that was helpful. How so? He just admitted to the forgery and implicated your parents as co conspirators. She added the recording to her evidence file. Plus, it shows a pattern of behavior. They knew what they were doing was wrong. My laptop pinged with an email from Sandra at the bank. Meeting requested. Urgent matter regarding account activity. 20 minutes later, we sat in Sandra's office. She looked grave. We've completed our initial review, she said, sliding a folder across her desk. These transactions raise several concerns. First, the gifts were structured to avoid reporting requirements. Second, we found evidence of possible identity theft. The loan, I said. Yes, and there's more. She pulled up something on her screen. Your father's secondary account? It's linked to a series of suspicious wire transfers. Fiona leaned forward. Money laundering? We can't confirm without a full investigation. But Sandra met my eyes. There seems to be some misrepresented purpose here. Would you be willing to provide a formal statement? About everything? Everything. I looked at Fiona, who nodded. Tell them. For the next hour, I laid it all out. The years of financial abuse, the forged signatures, the recorded conversations. Sandra took detailed notes. One last thing, she said as we finished. We'd like to verify this signature. It lists you as a co-signer in 2021. I felt the room tilt as she showed me the document. Another loan, one I'd never seen before. That's not my signature either. Sandra's expression hardened. That's what we suspected. Back in Fiona's office, my phone exploded with texts. Mom, the bank called your father. What have you done? Dad, call me immediately. Tristan, you've ruined everything. Don't respond, Fiona warned. Let them panic. What happens now? Now? She smiled grimly. Now we wait for the IRS to do their job. And believe me, they're very good at their job. My phone buzzed again. Aunt Ruby, your mother's hysterical. They got a letter from the IRS. Should I feel bad? I asked Fiona. For wanting justice? For stopping them from stealing your future? She shook her head. They made their choices. Now they get to live with them. I scrolled through my photos, finding one from 3 years ago, me and Tristan at his college graduation. I'd helped pay for that too. You know what the worst part is? I said, showing Fiona the photo. I would have helped him if he'd just asked. Actually asked, not stolen. That's why you're better than them, she replied. And that's why you'll win. My phone lit up with one final text from Dad. We raised you better than this. I thought about all the times they'd used that line, all the times they'd manipulated me with family obligation and guilt. You're right, Dad, I muttered, turning off my phone. You raised me to be thorough, responsible, and methodical. Congratulations. Your lesson worked perfectly. Fiona was watching me. Ready for phase 2? I nodded. Let's show them exactly what their responsible daughter can do. She opened her laptop, pulling up a new document. Then let's talk about that offshore account your father thinks we haven't found yet. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky. A storm was coming. Good. I'd always done my best work in the rain. The cafe where I met Aunt Ruby was quiet for a Sunday morning. She looked older than I remembered, worn down by family secrets. Your mother hasn't slept in days, she said, stirring her coffee. The bank froze their home equity line. They're reviewing the mortgage contract. Because Dad used the house as collateral for Ramon? She nodded. Francisco always thought he could fix everything with money, usually yours. Why did you agree to meet me? Ruby set down her spoon. Because I watched them do this to you for 20 years. Every time Tristan messed up, you paid the price. Literally. Tell me about Dad, I said. About why he favors Tristan. She sighed. Your father was 19 when Tristan was born. Scared, overwhelmed. He saw himself in your brother, all that charm, all that potential. But you? She reached across the table, touching my hand. You were different, strong, independent, like your grandmother. The one who cut Dad off? For the same reasons you're fighting back now. He took advantage, thought family meant unlimited chances. My phone buzzed. Mom calling. I declined it. They got another letter yesterday, Ruby said. From the IRS this time. Margaret burst into tears, called me crying about how you're tearing the family apart. I'm tearing it apart? They stole my house deposit, forged my signature, used me as their personal bank for years. I know. Ruby pulled out her phone, showing me a text from Mom. We were just trying to make it fair. You always had everything together. I laughed bitterly. Everything together? I worked 2 jobs through college, lived on ramen, saved every penny while they handed Tristan everything. Francisco thought he was protecting him. Ruby's voice was tired. He didn't want Tristan to struggle like he did, but he forgot about you. No, I corrected her. He took advantage of me. My phone lit up with another text. Layla. Your brother's here again, looking rough. Does Tristan know? Ruby asked. About the investigation? He knows something's wrong. Keeps trying to see me at work. Be careful, she warned. He's desperate. Ramon isn't exactly the forgiving type. I showed her the documentation I'd gathered, the transfers, the forged signatures, the recorded calls. Her hands shook as she read. This will destroy them, she whispered. They destroyed themselves. I'm just providing evidence. Ruby's phone chimed, Dad calling. She answered on speaker. Have you talked to her? His voice was strained. Yes. And? She has proof, Francisco. Of everything. Silence. Then, tell her to stop this. Now, before she ruins this family. The family's already ruined, Ruby replied. You did that yourself. She hung up, meeting my eyes. What do you need from me? Just the truth. When they ask, tell them what you've seen, what they did. They'll never forgive me. Welcome to my world. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a text from Mom. We raised you better than this. Family forgives. Funny how forgiveness only goes one way, Ruby muttered, reading the text. They take and take, but the moment you stand up for yourself, I'm the villain, I finished. No. She squeezed my hand. You're the wake-up call they never wanted. Outside the cafe, thunder rumbled. Ruby looked out at the gathering storm. Your grandmother would be proud, she said quietly. She always said the strongest women in our family were the ones who learned to say no. Did Dad ever forgive her? For cutting him off? He didn't have to. She wasn't asking for forgiveness. She was teaching him consequences. My phone lit up again. Fiona. IRS wants another meeting. Tomorrow morning. It's really happening, isn't it? Ruby asked. I nodded. The bank's fraud division is involved now. They're investigating every transfer, every loan, every signature. And Ramon? His operation isn't exactly legal. Once the investigation starts. Jesus. Ruby closed her eyes. Francisco has no idea what's coming. He never thought I'd fight back. None of them did. She gathered her purse, standing. Do you want to know the real reason I'm helping you? Why? Because 20 years ago, I watched my sister become someone I didn't recognize, someone who'd hurt her own daughter to protect her son. Maybe this will wake her up. As she left, my phone chimed one final time. A text from Dad. Whatever you're doing, stop it now. This isn't you. I stared at those words, thinking about Ruby's story, about Dad's fear of struggle, about Mom's endless excuses for Tristan. You're right, I whispered to the phone. This isn't me. This is who you created. Outside, the storm finally broke. Rain pounded against the windows, washing everything clean. The IRS office was colder than I remembered. Agent Phillips hadn't smiled once during our meeting, but her eyes sparked with interest as she reviewed the documents. These gift declarations, she said, tapping her pen against the folder. Your parents filed them separately to avoid the reporting threshold. Classic structuring. Fiona, sitting beside me, nodded. And the transfers to Ramon? Mischaracterized as gifts to avoid scrutiny. We're particularly interested in the offshore account. My phone vibrated, Layla again. Your brother's getting worse. He tried to access your computer today. Security removed him. Ms. Yara, Agent Phillips continued, we'd like your permission to expand our investigation. These patterns suggest a longer history of financial misconduct. How far back? At least 5 years, possibly more. I thought about all those years of emergency requests, of guilt trip loans, of watching Tristan get bailed out while I paid the price. Do it, I said. My phone lit up with a text from Mom. The mortgage company called. They're reviewing our loan. Please stop this madness. Agent Phillips noticed the message. Are they attempting to contact you directly? Constantly. She made a note. All communication should go through legal channels now. We've flagged multiple violations, including tax evasion and fraudulent gift reporting. Fiona's phone buzzed. She read the message and touched my arm. The bank just called. They found something else. 20 minutes later, we sat in Sandra's office at the bank. She looked grim as she pulled up a document on her screen. This credit card application was submitted 2 years ago, she said. In your name. I felt the room tilt. I never applied for a credit card through this bank. We know. She turned the screen toward me. Because this signature doesn't match your others. It's another forgery. Fiona leaned forward. How much? The credit limit was 20,000. It's currently maxed out. My hands started shaking. Who made the charges? Sandra pulled up the transaction history. Most were cash advances, withdrawn by someone using your PIN. A PIN I never created. Exactly. She pressed a button on her phone. Security, please send up the video footage we discussed. Minutes later, we watched grainy ATM footage of Tristan withdrawing cash using my card. Multiple times, different dates. The credit officer said, we'd like to verify this signature. It lists you as a co-signer in 2021. I felt the room tilt. Identity theft, Fiona said quietly. Clear as day. My phone rang. Aunt Ruby. I answered on speaker. Yara, you need to know something, she said quickly. Tristan's at your parents' house. He's talking about leaving the country. Something about Ramon coming after him. Fiona straightened. When? Tonight, maybe tomorrow. Francisco's trying to talk him down. After the call, Sandra looked at me. Do you want to press charges? For the identity theft? For all of it. The forgeries, the unauthorized transfers, the credit card fraud. We have enough evidence now. My phone buzzed with a new text from Ramon himself. Your brother owes me more than money now. Better hope he runs fast. I showed it to Fiona. That's witness intimidation, she said. Add it to the file. Sandra was still waiting for my answer about pressing charges. I thought about Tristan planning to run, about Dad trying to protect him one last time, about Mom's tears and guilt trips. Do it, I said. All of it. It'll mean criminal charges, Sandra warned. Your parents could face serious consequences. They already do, I replied. They just don't know it yet. Back in Fiona's office, Layla called with an update. Security found something on your brother's phone when they took it. He was trying to access your work accounts. Why? Looking for money, probably. He seemed desperate. Another text came through, from Mom. We were just trying to make it fair. You always had everything together. Fiona read it over my shoulder and snorted. Everything together? Is that what they call working yourself to exhaustion while they robbed you blind? They never saw it that way, I said. They saw an ATM with a pulse. Well, this ATM just shut down their whole operation. She started gathering the documents. I'm submitting everything to the DA tomorrow morning. Are you ready? I looked at the stack of evidence. Years of theft and lies, all carefully documented. The forged signatures, the fake credit cards, the offshore accounts, all of it leading back to the people who were supposed to protect me. They raised me to be responsible, I said. Time they learned what that really means. My phone lit up one last time. Dad, whatever happens next is on you. For once, I replied, You're right. It is. Then I turned off my phone and watched the sun set through Fiona's office window, knowing that tomorrow everything would change. And I was finally ready. The moving truck arrived at my parents' house on a Wednesday morning. I watched from my car across the street as they loaded furniture I recognized from childhood. Mom's antique dining table, Dad's leather armchair, the cabinet that held all our family photos. My phone buzzed. Fiona. It's done. DA filed charges this morning: identity theft, tax evasion, fraud. Want company? No, I texted back. I need to see this alone. The bank had frozen their accounts 3 days ago. The IRS placed liens on their property yesterday. The mortgage company called in their loan after discovering the illegal collateral agreement with Ramon. It all happened faster than anyone expected. Aunt Ruby approached my car, tapping on the window. I rolled it down. Tristan's gone, she said without preamble. Left last night. No one knows where. And Ramon? Looking for him? Your parents are. She glanced at the house. Well, you can see. Mom appeared on the front porch, looking small and lost. She spotted my car and froze. Even from here, I could see her hands shaking as she pulled out her phone. My phone lit up with her message. Are you happy now? Ruby read it and sighed. She still doesn't get it, does she? Neither does Dad. As if summoned, he emerged from the house carrying boxes to his car. He looked older, defeated. The man who'd always seemed larger than life now appeared small against the backdrop of his crumbling world. My phone rang, an unknown number. I answered cautiously. Sis? Tristan's voice was barely recognizable. I messed up, really messed up this time. Where are you? Can't say. Ramon's people are. I need help, money, anything. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You're still asking me for money? Please, I'm scared. So was I every time you stole from me. Every time they chose you over me. Every time they made me feel guilty for wanting to keep what was mine. Silence. Then, they were right about you. You're cold. No, Tristan, I'm just finally warm enough to fight back. I hung up as another moving truck pulled up to the house. This one was from an auction company, here for the furniture that would be sold to pay their debts. Ruby touched my arm. Francisco wants to talk to you. About what? He says he can explain everything. I've had enough explanations. Mom was crying on the porch now, watching her life being packed away. Dad stood beside her, arm around her shoulders, looking lost in a way I'd never seen before. My phone buzzed with a text from Fiona. Ramon's been arrested. Tax evasion, illegal gambling, loan sharking. Your evidence helped build the case. I showed Ruby the message. Good, she said firmly. That man destroyed too many lives. Another text came through from Dad. I know you're out there. At least face us. Ruby squeezed my hand. You don't owe them that. I know. I opened my car door. But I owe it to myself. Walking across the street felt like crossing an ocean. Mom saw me first, her face crumpling. Why? She whispered. We're your family. No, I said quietly. I was your ATM. Tristan was your family. Dad stepped forward. Everything we did was theft. I cut him off. Fraud, crime, not love, not family. We were protecting your brother while destroying me. I met his eyes. Did you ever think about that? Mom reached for me. I stepped back. Please, she begged. We can fix this. No, we can't, because this isn't revenge. I looked at the moving trucks, the boxes, the dismantled life they'd built on stolen money. This is rebalancing. Dad's face hardened. You've ruined us. You ruined yourselves. I just provided the evidence. My phone buzzed. Fiona again. Police want to interview your parents today. I showed them the message. Mom started crying harder. Dad's face went pale. "This isn't who we raised you to be," he said. "You're wrong." I turned to leave. "This is exactly who you raised me to be. Thorough, methodical, responsible. I learned from the best." Ruby followed me back to my car. "What now?" I watched as the auction truck drove away with the last of their furniture. Now they face consequences, maybe for the first time in their lives. And Tristan? He'll surface when he runs out of options. He always does. Mom called out from the porch one last time, "Yara, please." But I was already driving away, watching in my rearview mirror as their house, the house they'd mortgaged with stolen money, grew smaller and smaller. On the porch, watching a moving truck carry out their furniture, I murmured, this wasn't revenge, it was rebalancing. And finally, after all these years, the scales were even. To karma, Fiona raised her glass, and the people who help it arrive on schedule. We sat in my new condo's kitchen, unpacking boxes while sharing wine. The closing papers still sat on the counter, ink barely dry. "I can't believe you used the recovered money as a down payment," Layla said, arranging dishes in my cabinets. "That's some poetic justice." My phone buzzed. Aunt Ruby. "Tristan surfaced in Mexico, wants to make a deal with the DA." Speaking of justice, I showed them the message. Fiona smirked. "Let me guess, he'll testify against your parents in exchange for immunity?" "Probably. Some things never change." "Some things do." Layla pointed to the window. "Like your view, much better than that cramped apartment." A text from Mom appeared. "Are you proud now?" I deleted it without responding. She'd sent the same message every week since their arraignment. Dad hadn't contacted me since posting bail. "Have you read the plea deal terms?" Fiona asked, pulling out more wine. "No need. Ruby keeps me updated. Dad's facing tax evasion charges. Mom's claiming ignorance, but the forged signatures are hard to explain away." "And Ramon?" "Singing like a bird to federal investigators. Turns out he had dirt on half the city." Layla opened another box, pulling out photo frames. She paused at one, me and Tristan at his graduation. "Want me to trash this?" "No." I took the photo. "Keep it as a reminder." "Of what? How they hurt you?" "Of why I fought back." My phone lit up, an email from the DA's office. The subject line read, "Final settlement terms." Fiona read it over my shoulder. "They're offering your parents a deal, reduced charges in exchange for full restitution." "Will they take it?" "They'd be idiots not to. Otherwise, they're looking at serious time." Another text arrived. From Dad this time. "The DA called. We need to talk." "Don't," Fiona warned. "I wasn't planning to." Layla finished with the photos and started on my books. "You know what's crazy? After everything they did, they still think you're the bad guy. Because I stopped being their ATM. Because you showed them consequences exist." My doorbell rang. Ruby stood outside, holding a box. "Found these while helping them pack," she said, setting it down. "Thought you might want them." Inside were old report cards, academic awards, newspaper clippings about my coding competitions, things I thought they'd thrown away. "They kept them?" I whispered. "In Francisco's office, hidden behind Tristan's sports trophies." My phone buzzed again. The DA. "Your brother's testimony has been recorded. Trial dates will be set next week." Ruby read the message. "Are you ready for that? Seeing them in court?" "I already saw them lose everything else. What's one more day?" Fiona poured Ruby a glass of wine. "To new beginnings?" "To consequences," I corrected. My phone lit up one last time. An unknown number. The message made my blood freeze. "It cost me everything, but I'm safe now. Thanks for teaching me about consequences." T. "Tristan?" Layla asked. I nodded. "Sounds like he finally learned something." "Did you?" Ruby asked quietly. "Learn something?" I looked around my new kitchen, at the friends who'd supported me, the aunt who'd chosen truth over loyalty, the life I was building from the ashes of what they'd stolen. I learned that karma needs a little help showing up on time. Fiona raised her glass again. "To karma's little helpers?" We clinked glasses as the sunset painted my new walls gold. Tomorrow would bring more challenges: court dates, testimonies, the weight of facing family in handcuffs. But tonight, You know what the best revenge is? I said, unpacking another box. This, living well, building something they can't touch. Speaking of building, Layla pulled out her phone. Your story's gone viral on that legal advice forum. People are calling you their hero. I'm not a hero. I'm just someone who finally said enough. Ruby hugged me suddenly. You're stronger than all of them combined. My phone buzzed one final time. A message from the bank. Restitution payment received. Account restored. It wasn't about the money anymore. It never really was. It was about worth, about boundaries, about learning that family isn't an excuse for abuse. It cost me $50,000 in a family, I said, raising my glass. But it bought me one hell of a lesson. I don't owe anyone for being born. The others raised their glasses too, and in that moment, surrounded by boxes and hope and hard won freedom, I finally felt rich in all the ways that mattered, not because of what I'd gained, but because of what I'd refused to lose my dignity, my future, and most importantly, myself.